Good afternoon. Welcome to GDIC's NASA SEWP VI webinar, which is going to review the latest amendment, Amendment 8, as well as the 3 batches of responses that were issued by NASA recently. My name is Cal, and I am your artificial intelligence host today. With me is Ab Vand, VP for Capture at GDI Consulting and a subject matter expert on these opportunities. Ab has over 30 years of experience in capture and proposal management. He is considered an expert in self-scoring as well as traditional proposal and capture efforts. Ab has managed over 1,000 successful capture and proposal efforts and is a regular contributor to Washington Technology and other online GovCon magazines. He has also held numerous training webinars for various APMP chapters and APEX, previously PTAC, offices throughout the U.S. Before starting, there are a few housekeeping notes I would like to mention. First, this webinar is being recorded and the link to the recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. We will first have a quick glimpse on GDI Consulting's capabilities. Then, a short discussion on the RFP requirements and what is needed for your submission. Next, Ab will provide some general notes and comments on NASA's latest Amendment 8 and the 3 batches of responses to questions. Then he will go into the details of these clarifications based on the different volumes of your submission as well as important topics such as partnering. Finally, before going into the Q&A, Ab will provide his recommendations towards preparing and reviewing a winning proposal. If I want to summarize the message that we want to convey in this webinar, it is that firstly, if you have not started due to questions and ambiguities, things are clear now. Start your proposal preparations now. Secondly, for those already in the race, there are many moving parts involved, therefore, read through all the Q&As and ensure your proposal is reviewed thoroughly for compliance. So, with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to first give a short glimpse on GDI Consulting's capabilities. Ab, you can take over now.
Hello everyone, thank you Cal. As Cal mentioned, this webinar is directed towards the latest amendment that the government has issued and also the 3 batches of responses to the questions, around 3,300 questions. I'm not going to go into the details of the background for SEWP, the SEWP program, or I will go over the requirements, but not in a very detailed format. So if you have questions in those areas, this is I think the 8th time I've held a webinar on SEWP, so you can actually refer back to the previous webinars. They're all on our website, www.gdicwins.com. and you can review those when you have time. So with that, let's start. I will go very quickly over our capabilities for those who are new to these webinars. So our company has 4 different divisions: proposal development, which includes eligibility and score assessment for self-scoring type proposals, as well as other types of traditional proposals, full proposal development, reviews and collegiate reviews, and staff augmentation. These are all covered with our proposal development division. Then we have a capture division, which has both strategic capture, dedicated capture management we call it, as well as short-term sourcing and qualification of RFPs and the pipelines. Third division is support division. It's usually used by larger companies, competitive intel, black hat exercises, and price to win. And finally, 4th division is training, proposal development, capture management. These are customized trainings, not standard training. So we customize it based on the client's requirements. So I skip everything very quickly. Now, as far as SEWP VI is concerned, the services we provide free consultation, and I suggest that you take full use of this. You can always coordinate a call, and either myself or one of our senior proposal managers will jump on the call with you and answer any questions that you have. These are free consultation times. Then we have eligibility and qualification assessment for those people who are not sure whether they can actually participate in SEWP VI. We can answer any questions and actually do a very quick eligibility and qualification assessment to see if you are qualified. Then once you start, we have actually two services: full proposal development and review services. So for those companies who want us to take responsibility for the proposal, we put a dedicated team and we provide support for all volumes, cradle to grave, and do full and multiple reviews for compliance and other types of requirements. Now, if you have an in-house team, we can provide help with review services. Again, we do full proposal and compliance reviews, and we provide consultation as well to those companies. So these are the services we provide for SEWP VI. That was a quick summary of our services. Let's start with SEWP VI now. Let me explain the categories and the RFP requirements, and then go into the Amendment 8. So very quickly, as you know, most of you know, there are three categories: category A, B, C. First, category A is essentially equipment. They call it solutions. So here you provide all types of IT and audiovisual equipment to the government. Categories B and C are essentially the same. These are services. So IT services you provide. Category B is for larger projects. So once you're awarded on that category, the task orders are larger. They call it enterprise-wide. So larger projects, to put it simply. And then category C is for smaller projects. And that's why the requirements for category C are a little bit easier to meet. And I will go into details. Now, category A and B are for both unrestricted, or as they call it, not small businesses, or and small business set aside. So A and B are for both large and small businesses, and category C is only for small businesses. Okay, moving forward. Let's look at what category A covers. So I've listed these. I will not go over all of them. These are the different technical areas. We will come back to these later on. But these are the technical areas under category A from 1 to 9. Now, 1 to 8 are those that are more important. 9 is not something that once I discuss the requirements, product-based services is not something that you can provide contracts or past performance or experience towards. So remember that product-based services is only for the CLINs, as I will explain. You cannot provide past performance towards product-based services. So these are the CLINs under category, or excuse me, the technical areas under category A. Then moving to category B, there are 11 of them, 1 to 11. Again, 11 program management, ancillary services and supplies cannot be used for past performance or reps experience. So remember that. So as I will explain later, when you're providing experience and past performance, it has to be towards from 1 to 10. But these are the technical areas under B, and then technical areas under C are essentially similar to B, a little bit different in naming, but essentially they cover the same type of work. And again here, 11C, program management and ancillary service, cannot be used for providing past performance and experience. So these were essentially the scope. Now let's look at quickly at the proposal requirements. So there are 3 volumes to the proposal. It doesn't matter whether you're going for category A, B, C, whatever. You must provide these, but they're different depending on which category you're going for. In volume 1 of category of the structure of the proposal, you provide all the administrative documents like SF 1449 and that sort of thing that is usual for every contract. Here you also provide certifications ISO 9001. All categories must have that, ISO 9001. I'll come back to that. Now, CMMI level 2 or higher is required only for category B, not for category C, but for category B only. And then there is mandatory experience, which is different for category A compared to category B and C, and I'll explain that. Then we have volume 2, past performance volume, and here it has 2 sections, a 10-pager past performance descriptions for up to 3 contracts. So you have 10 pages to describe these 3 contracts. And then the PPQs, past performance questionnaires. You cannot use CPARs or anything like that. There are specific forms that come with the RFP. You have to get them filled out by the contracting officers of those contracts and sent directly by the contracting officers to NASA. Finally, volume 3, mission suitability volume. It has 2 subfactors, technical approach and management approach. This is essentially write-ups, 15 pages for technical approach and 15 pages for management approach. Now let's, considering this 3 volumes, now let's look at what the requirements for each category specifically are. So for category 1, in volume 1, you have to provide your ISO 9001 2015 certification. So earlier types of 9001 are not acceptable. However, if you do not have ISO 9001 and you're a small business, it is acceptable that you provide the POC of the company that is actually providing you that ISO 9001 in case it is in process. So if you do a coordination with a company and they accept that your ISO 9001 is in process, and all you have to do is provide the POC for that company in your volume 1. The government will call them and they'll say, yes, company ABC is in the process of getting ISO 9001. That's good enough for the government. And you have 12 months actually to actually finalize that certification. So if you don't have ISO 9001, don't panic. You just coordinate with the company, start the process, and then that's it. Give the POC of that company in your volume 1. Now, remember we're talking about category A, which is equipment solutions. So here, what you need to do in volume 1, this is called the experience part. You need to have 1,000 CLINs or line items of the different equipment that you're providing, and there's a form for it. 1,000 CLINs from one designated provider, one OEM, and then 50 CLINs from a second provider on one of those sub areas that I mentioned. There were 9 of them. I said don't use the 9th one. So 1 to 8. Pick one of them that is towards the scope of work that you provide. 1,000 CLINs from one OEM, 50 CLINs from a second OEM on that particular sub area. Now, you have to pick 3 other sub areas under category A, but on those you have to provide 100 CLINs from one OEM and 50 CLINs from another OEM. Okay, so 100 CLINs from one OEM, 50 CLINs from another OEM. And finally, you need to provide 2 CLINs from that last sub area that I discussed, product-based services. So only 2 CLINs for that. And you need to provide LOAs. Obviously, it's not mentioned here, but you need to have LOAs, letter of authorizations from those OEMs that you use. That's volume 1, and you put everything here in volume 1. In volume 2, which is past performance. Now, if you're a large business, you can use between 1 to 3 past performed contracts that cover together. They cover 4 of the category A sub areas from 1 to 8, not 9, 1 to 8. So you have to cover 4 of those areas. Each of the contracts that you provide must have an annual value of $2.5 million. So if you're a large business, between 1 to 3 contracts with an annual value of $2.5 million. If you're a small business, then the annual value is $150,000, but you still need to cover 3 past performed contracts, 3 areas, 4 sub areas actually. Past performance contracts must correlate with the CLINs for which the OEM LOAs were provided. So you can't provide CLINs from one sub area and then provide past performance from another sub area under category A. They have to correlate. The past performances must have been those contracts must have been completed after May 23rd, 2021. Doesn't matter when they started, but they must have been completed after that date, or maybe they're ongoing. If they're ongoing, they must have 6 months of performance, and here you calculate it from the date of submission. So January 30th, 2025, go back 6 months, and if you're good there, then you can use that contract. Contracts can be federal, meaning that these can be standalone contracts, task orders, or OTAs even, or they can be commercial, and then you can have performed them as prime or as a sub. That's acceptable too. Small businesses can use past performance of subs. So maybe you can cover 3 of those sub areas. You're short of 1, so you can bring in a sub and use their past performance to cover that 4th sub area under category A. Now, if you have a single award IDIQ or BPA, that itself, because remember I said contracts, federal task orders, I didn't say IDIQs, but there is an exception. If you have a single award IDIQ or BPA or a commercial master service agreement, that counts as one contract, and you can sum up all the order values, and that's the total value of the contract. And then how do you calculate annual value? Annual value is calculated based on amount of amount obligated and duration up to current date, not the entire contract and the entire duration. What how much has been paid to you, obligated so far, and how much has passed so far. That's for the annual value of the contracts that are ongoing. If it's completed, obviously, you just that's the same thing. I mean, how much was actually paid to you and what was the duration. And then for volume 3, you provide the 15 pages of write-up for technical approach and 15 pages of write-up for management approach. I want to emphasize that what I'm saying to you right now is after going through those 33 or approximately 100 question and responses, and after Amendment 8. So I've considered all those and put them here. So that's category A. Let's go into category B quickly. So category B, for volume 1 experience, you need ISO 9001 2015 and CMMI level 2. But again, here, if you don't have that, but you can provide the POC of the company, company that provides these certifications, and then if the government calls them and they say yes, your company is actually in process, that's good enough. So for both of them, even if you don't have them now, you can arrange it to be okay. Now, if you're a large business, you need 4 contracts with a total value of each of them $30 million. Each of them must cover one of the category B sub areas. So you need to cover 4 sub areas, so you need 4 contracts for that. It doesn't mean that each contract must cover all 4 areas. No, 1 contract for 1 sub area, then a second contract for another sub area, and so on and so forth. And total value for these must be $30 million or more. If you're a small business, you don't need 4 sub areas. You need to cover 3 sub areas, so you need 3 contracts. Total value of those contracts must be $5 million each or above. So 3 of the sub areas under category B, remember the 11th one doesn't count, so 1 to 10, 3 of those, and the contracts must be $5 million each or above. Again, as I said, because multiple questions were provided on this, 1 contract per sub area. Maybe your contract covers 2 sub areas, but you just have to decide, which sub area you want to use it for, and then use another contract for the second sub area. Special socioeconomic categories such as hub zones, STVOSPs, WOSPs, and so forth, and 8As, you only need 2 contracts to cover 2 sub-areas, and those contracts value total value must be over $4 million. Now, remember that total contract value is calculated by adding all option years to the base year. So maybe you're in the second year of the base year. When you're calculating the total value, you calculate the entire base year, say it's a 5-year base, and 5-year options, and if you know the value, you add that. So that's the value of your contract for total contracts. Obviously, if it's a completed contract, whatever was paid to you, that's the total contract value. Now, for volume 2, past performance, if you're a large business, you need up to 3 contracts, so 1 to 3. You need to cover 4 of those sub areas in category B. Sub area 11, remember 11B is not included. And each of these must have an annual value of $2.5 million. $2.5 million each contract, remember? And this is annual value. Unlike volume 1, which was the total value, this is annual value, and I'll explain how that's calculated. Now, small businesses, you need 3 contracts, 1 to 3 contracts, each with an annual value of $1 million, and you need to cover 3 of the category B sub areas. If you're a small business with socioeconomic standing, such as hub zone, STVOSPs, or WOSPs, or 8A, you need up to 2 contracts because you only need to cover 2 areas. So 2 sub areas. And the annual value is $1 million here as well, at least. Now, the contracts provided for experience and past performance don't have to be the same ones. So you can actually, in volume 1, you might have provided different contracts. Here, you might provide the same contract, or they might be different. The past performance contracts must have been completed after May 23rd, 2021, or be ongoing with at least 6 months of performance. But this is calculated from January 30th, 2025. So go back 6 months, and that's okay. Contracts can be federal, standalone, such as standalones, task orders, or OTAs, or they can be commercial, performed as prime or as sub. So contracts in which you were sub, that is acceptable. But remember that when you're a sub, the total amount is the total amount that you perform, not the total amount of the contract itself. Small businesses can use past performance of subs. So you can actually, if you're short of a past performance, you can bring in a sub and use their past performance. You can use, if you have a similar to category A, if you have a single award IDIQ or BPA or commercial master service agreement, as you can use it as one contract, sum up all the order values. Remember, this is for volume 2 only. You cannot use a single award IDIQ or BPA itself in volume 1 as one of those reps, as they call it. So this is only for volume 2 for past performance. Annual value, how do you calculate it? It's calculated based on the amount obligated and duration up to current date. So if it's ongoing, unlike in volume 1, I said you look at all the option years and everything like that. You don't do that here. Whatever you have been paid up to this point divided by the duration from the start of the period of performance till today. You divide, and that's the annual value, unlike volume 1. So don't mix up the type of calculations that you do in volume 1 and volume 2. And finally, for volume 3, similar 15 pages write-up technical, 15 pages write-up of management approach. Now, category C, I want to get to Amendment 8 quickly. Category C is essentially similar to Category B. Differences. First of all, you don't need CMMI Level 2, only ISO 9001. It's only for small businesses. For Volume 1, 3 contracts with a total value of $2 million each. In Category B, it was $4 million for small businesses, if you remember. Here it's $2 million. And you need to cover three of Category C sub-areas. If you're a socioeconomic category, 2 contracts is enough because you have to cover 2 sub-areas only. Again, here, when you're calculating the total amount, remember that you can actually bring in all the option years and in addition to the base year, and that's how you calculate. Now, in volume 2, past performance, since this is only for small businesses, if you're a total small business without any socioeconomic categories, you need to provide you need to cover 3 of the sub areas. Now, this can be done with one contract. Maybe it covers all 3 areas. That's fine. Unlike volume 1, where each category was, you had to provide one separate contract for each category. Here in volume 2, you don't have to do that. Maybe one contract in terms of past performance covers all 3 sub areas that you want. That's fine. If not, you have up to 3 contracts that you can have. The annual value of that contract or contracts must be $500,000 each for each of those contracts. And remember, again, sub-area 11C is not included in those areas that you have to cover, sub-areas. So for socioeconomic companies, you need to cover only 2 sub-areas, so you need up to 2 contracts with a annual value of $500,000. The other requirements that I mentioned for category B are similar here for category C, as far as the type of contracts that you can provide, the dates and timings and everything. And for volume 3 is again similar, 15 pages write-up for technical and 15 pages for management approach. Okay, so this was a very quick summary of the requirements for the proposal requirements. Let's now dive into the response to questions by NASA as well as Amendment 8. So a little bit of a summary. Amendment 5 was issued on July 22nd, and the correction to the published Q&As on Monday, July 29th. So they started, slowly answering. Then it came Amendment 7 on September 9th with a few more responses, but very limited. Then on October 11th, 1,399 responses. October 28th, 1,201 responses. And finally, November 7th, 744 responses. So a total of 3,344 responses were published by NASA. Now, overall, NASA has received approximately 4,456 unique questions, and so far they have answered 3,344. So approximately 1,100 remain. They held an industry day on November 6th. To be honest, they didn't say much in that industry day. Then came Amendment 8 on November 15th. Now, the main important points about Amendment 8 are the following. First of all, they have expanded the providers list for Category A. So for those companies who could not find their own providers in the previous list of approved providers, they have expanded it considerably. So take a look again. I've seen quite a few new additions to that. They have also added more NAICS codes to the 3 categories. So each category has been expanded in terms of the NAICS codes that it covers. So that again, makes it easier for many companies to participate. They have removed exhibits 3B and 3C, so you no longer need, if you're going for category B and C, you don't need to provide those exhibits B and C with your proposal. And they created a lot of confusion, a lot of questions were on those. Incorporation of the clarifications from the Q&As into the updated RFP. So the new RFP, and it is highlighted quite well, it provides all the changes that they have made. So those 3,344 questions and responses were incorporated into the new RFP that comes with the Amendment 8. And finally, they postponed the submission date of the proposals to January 30th. So all companies have enough time even to start the preparation right now, or to actually correct their proposals based on the responses that NASA has provided. So this is a quick overview of the overall things. Now let's look at in details of the clarifications section by section. So let's first look at some of the general clarifications or important points. First one, I call this the black hole of NAICS. this NAICS code is used so many times in different places that a lot of the questions are concerning those NAICS codes. And I have tried to clarify it here. I hope this will help you. So there are the SEWP 6 RFP NAICS code. If you can see that category A has 541519E, category B is 541512, and category C is 541512. Forget about them. Don't even look at them. So whatever is, the categories NAICS code, just forget about it. It's an administrative thing that the government has to do, because each RFP has to correlate with one NAICS code. So it has no effect on your submission. Now, there is something called second one, a NAICS code for competition, or sometimes they have called it NAICS code used in the SF 1449. This is the NAICS code that you put in your SF 1449 block 10, and remember you have to actually put it there. Also, when you're submitting your proposal to the SEWP portal, it asks you what NAICS code are you submitting with. So you have to pick one NAICS code. This must correlate with essentially the type of work you do. What it is used is that they check that NAICS code against your size standard. So if you're claiming you're a small business, you have to be small business under that specific NAICS code, and then based on that, so all the requirements of the whether you have to cover 2 of the sub areas, or 3 of the sub areas, or 4 of the sub areas, all of those. What is the value of the contracts? Whether if you're large business, $30 million, or if you're small business, for example, $5 million, all of those take into place because of this NAICS code that you provide. So this is the NAICS code that your submission is done with, called NAICS code used in SF 1449. Now there's also a third one. It's called in-scope NAICS codes, or Exhibit 4, which is called NAICS size standard crosswalk, Exhibit 4. You have to fill this out for all the NAICS code under the category that you're going after. And for each NAICS code, you say you're small. For example, you might be total small business, or you might be women-owned, or you might be women-owned, SDV, OSV. So for each of the NAICS codes under that particular category, and there are a lot of them, and they've expanded it, in fact, you actually mention what you are, and do it for each and every, not just for one NAICS code. Fourth one, NAICS of your rep contracts. This is the experience contracts that you provide. Now, these can be any of the NAICS codes that are in the in-scope on the third one, in-scope NAICS. So Exhibit 4, all of the NAICS codes under that category are okay. So the contracts that you use in your rep contracts can have any of these NAICS codes. That's acceptable. Now, the NAICS for your past performance examples are different from, so the contracts you use for your past performance must be the same as your NAICS in your SF 1449. So if in your SF 1449 you said 541512, here your past performance contracts and examples that you provide must have this NAICS code as well. Now, there is an exception. They've said that if the contract that you're using as past performance does not have that NAICS code, that 541512, for example, in our case, then you have to provide reasoning in your write-up, in your past performance write-up, why you think it is relevant to that NAICS code. So the rep contracts can have any of the acceptable in-scope NAICS codes, but the past performance contracts that you use must have the SF 1449 NAICS code, or if they don't, you have to provide reasoning towards why they are relevant to that NAICS code. I hope I have cleared some of the questions, and I can answer your questions at the end towards this again. So let's move on. A lot to cover. So Merkles, that's another problem. Many questions on Merkles. So when do you need a Merkle or a meaningful relationship commitment letter, and when you don't? So you need it when you're sharing resources like the reps or past performance contracts with a parent company, affiliate, division, or a subsidiary within a corporate structure. So that is a must. You need a Merkle. You also need a Merkle when using reps or past performance from a subcontractor. I didn't say CTA, I said subcontractor. There's a difference between a CTA and a subcontractor. A CTA, when you form a CTA, the simplest way of putting it is that the government sees both you and the other CTA member as its own contractors. So the CTA member has direct relationship with the government. When you create a prime sub relationship, the subcontractor does not have any relationship with the government, no privy to the contract. So that's the difference. Now, if you're using just a prime sub relationship, you do need a Merkle. Now, you do not need a Merkle if you're using subcontractors in volume 3 write-ups. So you're saying, hey, you're talking about your capabilities and you're saying, I have such and such subcontractor that does this and that. But this is only in volume 3, and you're not using their reps or their past performance in volume 1 and 2. You do not need a Merkle then. You do not need a Merkle for a JV or CTA arrangement. That's mentioned multiple times in the question answer. However, there is a NASA response to question 3693, you can read it, 3693, that says to the contrary. It says that you do need, for CTAs, a Merkle. So my suggestion is that if you have formed a CTA, do actually sign a Merkle in between the members and include it. You won't lose anything for having a Merkle, even if it's not needed. Finally, you don't need Merkles, as I said, for JVs, including mentor-protege JVs. So they do not need a Merkle. So these were some of the questions, clarifications about Merkles. Moving forward, Ability 1, you need an Ability 1 letter. It is mandatory for some of the NAICS codes and categories, but I suggest there have been some contradictory statements in the responses again, whether you need it for all offers, all NAICS codes, not, and things like that. My recommendation again is get that Ability 1 letter. You have to get it from the, you don't sign agreements with the contractors now at this point. You just get that letter signed from ability1.org and sent back to you, and you include it in your submission. The contracts that you have to sign with the actual, Ability 1 subcontractors will be after award. So go for it, even if there's ambiguity whether you need it or not. Financials. You need to provide a copy of your recent financial statement in volume 1. This was missing, and they've added that. So make sure that you actually do have that. Multiple proposals and categories. There were many questions on this, and they have clarified it. So you need a separate proposal for each category, completely separate. So all documents, all attachments, everything must be included separately, even if it's a repeat. And then if you bid on a small business under a category and win, you can actually participate in the unrestricted task orders in that category. So this was, again, many questions on that. Not vice versa, obviously. So large businesses cannot participate in small business set-asides under that category. But small businesses, once you're there, you can actually participate in the unrestricted task orders. So you don't have to provide 2 submissions. Your award is based on a category, so you can then bid on all of the sub areas. So maybe you went for 3 of the sub areas out of those. If you're say category B, there are 11 sub areas there, and you picked 3, provided experience and past performance. Now that you're awarded, you can actually participate in all 11 of those. So it's on a category as a whole once you're awarded. Okay, Now let's go into volume 1, specific to volume 1, offer volume, including experience, some of the clarifications. So CLINs, category A, providing more than 1050 for the primary technical area, for the main one, and 150 for the other one. So more than that, it's not needed, it's not necessary, will not be reviewed. But you can do it. I mean, doesn't matter. But it's nothing to your advantage to include more. You can use the same provider OEM for multiple technical areas. So actually, for the 4 technical areas that you have to cover, maybe you have the minimum 2. One providing the 1000s and the 100s, and the second OEM can provide the 50s. That's the minimum, or you can have more. The LOA is obviously only needed for those main ones. So the OEM that provides the 1000 and the OEM that provides the 100s, they have to provide the LOA, not the 50s. The designated providers, the ones that provide 1000 for primary technical area, 100 for, must be from enclosure 1. So they have to be on that list that the government has expanded recently with Amendment 8, but the other providers don't have to be on that list. So they might not, you can use another provider for the 50s. With regard to subsidiaries and brands, all subsidiaries and brands belonging to one of the OEM providers on the government list, enclosure 1, they can all be used. That's acceptable. Distributors, however, cannot provide LOAs, and it's not acceptable. Maybe you get, because many companies are not in direct communication with the OEMs, they are in communication through a distributor. That's fine. You might get the CLINs from the distributor, but the LOA, and get the LOA from the distributor, but that LOA must be signed by the OEM itself, not signed by the distributor. That's the point. Okay, moving forward. And we are behind. LOAs. The LOA letter must reference SEWP VI. Remember, it has to reference SEWP VI, and the POC name and contact information and its position in the company. So if you have an LOA 2 years ago, that cannot be used because it has to reference the word SEWP VI on it. The POC that signs the LOA must be the same POC given in on Exhibit 3A. POC info tab. It must be a U.S. citizen and be either a federal sales representative or equivalent, but make sure that you put the same name there on Exhibit 3A. LOA cannot come from a distributor. I mentioned that. For a JV, the LOA must be in the name of the JV. So even if one of your JV members has an LOA with the distributor, you have to go back with the OEM. You have to go back to the OEM and make sure that they issue a letter, an LOA, in the name of the JV. That's important. LOAs are not needed from providers for each area that gives you the extra 50 CLINs, and I mentioned that. Okay. Pricing of CLINs. So for CLIN pricing, the following costs are not priced in the RFQ order level: travel, credit discount, delivery fees, government imposed fees, ODCs, overhead, and general administrative. You must include agency administrative handling fee in your price as well. So that's maximum 0.34%. Include that in your pricing. All prices are considered ceiling prices. So the prices that you provide in your CLINs are considered ceiling. You can provide discounts on them when you compete against task orders. And remember, they're not going to compare your prices with other companies. I did not go into the details of how, just giving you an idea. The entire SEWP VI selection process is pass-fail, so to say. And they're not going to compare you with other companies, not your proposal, neither your prices. The write-ups or the prices are going to be compared. Obviously, they check to make sure that the prices are reasonable, but you're not being compared with others. So you should provide ceiling prices so you have enough leeway to actually provide discounts at task order level. If you have a GSA mass schedule, your provided prices must be equal or less than the GSA mass. Remember that as well. Now, Exhibit 3A and 3 all the way to 3C, there are no minimum number of LCATs required to put to be input for Exhibit 3B and 3C. Now, this has been removed, so I'll remove this later on from the PDF, because now you don't need to provide Exhibit 3B and 3C. They have been completely removed. Okay, moving forward, ISO 9001 CMMI and CSCRM certification. ISO 9001 2008 is no longer acceptable. Only 2015 is acceptable. Emphasis that you cannot use ISO 9001 or CMMI from your parent company or affiliate through a Merkle. So you cannot claim having an ISO 9001 or CMMI through a Merkle. Remember that. Proof of ISO 9001 or CMMI being in process, providing the contact info of the person, as I mentioned. For CSCRM, you can either fill out the Exhibit 5 CSCRM attestation form, not Attachment J. There's been a mix-up here. Many companies put questions on that. Both of them have the same name. Attachment J and Exhibit 5 have the same name. Attachment J is after award. Exhibit 5 you need to provide with your submission. It's called attestation form. In lieu of that, you can actually, if you have an open trusted technology, provide the standard certification meeting ISO 20243. That's good too. You can provide that. Now, with regards to SF forms, make sure to sign the latest SF 1449 that comes with Amendment 8. They have changed it. So use that SF 1449. And also sign all SF 30s. And then, as I mentioned, input your NAICS code in block 10 of SF 1449. Don't forget that. Now, for reps. This is the last thing for volume 1. For reps, cannot use the same rep for multiple technical areas in the same proposal. So if you're a large business, you're supposed to cover 4 technical areas, 1 rep per technical area. You cannot use the same contract for 2 technical areas. They've cleared ambiguities towards whether you can use the same rep for multiple categories. Yes, you can use it. So if you're going for multiple categories, you can use the same rep. In fact, you can use the same rep, same past performance, same POCs, everything can be the same if you're going for multiple categories. There's no problem. Do not submit more than the required number of reps. So if you're a large business, you're supposed to cover 4 areas, submit 4 reps. If you're a small business, 3 reps. If you're a socioeconomic, 2 reps. 2 contracts, that's it. No more. Each rep should include detailed project description, performance metrics, and relevant client references as specified in Exhibit 1. Do not include extra documents like the SAO or the contract award, anything like that. Exhibit 1 rep form is not required for Category A. Okay, so if you're Category A, you don't need that. For Category A, it's all those CLINs that we discussed. Okay, reps can be up to 4 pages. 1 page is the form, and 3 additional pages you can add for the write-up. Reps can have any of the allowed NAICS codes. As I said, under Exhibit 4, NAICS size standard crosswalk for Category B or C, depending on which you are actually going after. Category A doesn't need reps at all. Okay, so that's Volume 1. Let's go into Volume 2, Past Performance. What are the clarifications? So note that for Category A, past performance should be from the first 8 technical areas and not the 9th one, the product-based services. So you can't provide a past performance contract regarding, product-based services. The same thing for Category B and C, the 11th one, the 11th sub-area, which is program management ancillary services, cannot be used in Category B and C for past performance. Projects used for past performance in Volume 2 can be, but don't have to be the same as those in Volume 1. So maybe are different. But they must cover the same technical areas as the reps. So the reps maybe cover the first 3 sub-areas. You cannot, provide past performance that cover, number 6, 7, and 8. They have to cover the same sub-areas that you provided, that you covered with your reps. Important, for all categories, the NAICS of the past performance projects must be the same as the submission NAICS the one that goes into SF 1449, and when you submit through the SEWP portal. If your past performance does not have the same NAICS, you must provide reasoning for relevance in your 10-page write-up in your past performance volume. Okay, volume 3, mission suitability. So response to the commitment to sustainability area under management approach is mandatory. There are a number of questions saying, hey, we don't have any sustainability. We are a, software company. You still have to cover it, but based on your company and the type of work, you have to actually provide your planning on that. The 4 acquisition objectives that is required, you need to mention these in your technical approach. You can find these in page 2 of attachment A. Go to attachment A, page 2, and they mention the 4 acquisition objectives. You must cover them in your technical approach. You can reference your subcontractors' past performance or experience in your write-up, even if you're not providing their specific contracts in your volume 1 and 2. So you have many subcontractors that add to your capabilities. By all means, use their name and their capabilities in your write-ups of technical and management approach, even though you're not using their reps or past performance. Okay, a few words on partnering. So emphasis that other than small businesses, OTSPs cannot use subcontractors for volume 1 and 2. So if you're a large business, everything is on you. You cannot bring in subcontractors for reps or subcontractors for past performance. You can prime and at the same time be part of another team, JV or CTA, for one category, the same category. This includes priming as OTSP and subbing as SP if you're small under some NAICS code. But as a whole, number 3, look at it. This is how it works. So you can prime, this is per category. Per category. You can prime once. You can be part of a JV or part of a CTA once at the same time that you prime. So once part of a JV or CTA, not both, one of them. And you can be a subcontractor any number of times. So at the same time that you're prime and you're part of a JV or a CTA, you can be a subcontractor to 10 other companies. That's acceptable. So doesn't matter how many companies you're subcontract to, that's fine. Once for a CTA or JV member and once as a prime. Partnering, meaning JVs and CTAs, do not require a Merkle, and I did mention that but about the CTA. So if you are a CTA, I recommend that you actually sign a Merkle. But if you're using past performance of a subcontractor or a rep, which is only allowed for small businesses, then you can you need to include a Merkle in your proposal. So for subcontractors, you do need a Merkle. For these type of subcontractors, you need to provide a NAICS code crosswalk as well. So if you have a subcontractor, you're using a subcontractor for a rep or past performance, you also need to provide a Exhibit 4 NAICS code crosswalk for that subcontractor as well. Subcontractor teammates can always be added after the award. So if that's no problem, and that task order level as well. If you're subbing, you can participate in multiple teams and it is allowed. So as I said, you might be subbing for 10 different companies, 10 primes, that's fine. Important, there was confusion as to whether you can use the same contracts or the same volume 3 write-ups if you're submitting in 2 proposals as prime and as a team member. They have clarified it. You can use the same material. So in number 3, I said you prime once, you prime, and you can be part of a JV member or a CTA, or you can be multiple times subcontracted. You can use the same reps, same past performance, and same write-ups throughout these projects. Okay, so that was partnering. Let's move to submission now. So submission, if you're going for multiple categories, you need to provide separate full proposals. I said this before. Each LOA should be saved separately within Volume 1 folder based on the naming convention explained in page 92 of the RFP. Emphasis that proposal components such as exhibits, ISO 9001, and LOAs should be saved separately in individual PDFs within the same folder of that corresponding volume. So essentially, you will have 3 folders, one folder as the whole submission, which will be zipped at the end of the day. So one zip file will be sent to the government. Within that folder, you will have 3 folders, one for volume 1, one for volume 2, and one for volume 3. The main part of each of those volumes will be one PDF, and then some of these exhibits and ISO 9001 LOAs will be the accompanying PDFs in that particular folder. Now, if you're going for multiple categories, then your main folder will have 2 folders within it, category A and category B, for example, or category B and category C. And then within those folders, within category B folder, you will have volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Spreadsheets must be converted to PDF for inclusion in single PDF files for each proposal volume. Additionally, completed exhibits must be provided in MS Office Excel format with working cell formula. So PDF, the Excel sheets, attach them to the main document, but at the same time include the Excel document as well. Emphasis that mission suitability volume should be submitted as one single PDF file, but it contains both subfactor A and subfactor B. But subfactor A and subfactor B are, each of them are completely separate as far as, they have a cover page, a table of content, list of figures, everything is separate, but it is one file which is attached to the other. So one file is subfactor 1, one file is subfactor 2, they are attached together. So at the end of the day, for volume 3, you submit one PDF file. And CUI information is not allowed to be submitted. So if you have CUI information for your past performance or your reps or anything like that, you're not allowed to submit them for this NASA submission. Okay, now we have very few minutes left. Let me go very quickly. I have prepared a few, it's like a table for review. I will not go into the details of these, but what I've done is, and you can always refer back to this once you download this presentation, and in parentheses, if you have problem downloading these this presentation, just mention so on the chat system and we'll send it by email. So no problem if you can't download it, just mention that you can't download and you want the slide deck, and we'll send it by email to you. So this table that you'll see, I've prepared to help you in terms of reviewing your proposal. It's obviously general, not into the details, but it does mention what you should look for each section. So for example, in volume 1, offer volume, we have the administrative documents, and then I have divided it between, first of all, obviously categories, and then vertical review versus horizontal review. Vertical review means in terms of the content. Horizontal review is essentially in terms of form and format. So, for example, ISO 9001, for vertical review, I've said, ensure that the certification or letter stating that the certification request is in process is fully documented, meaning that the POC is there. Now, in horizontal review, ensure the name and address and the POC information of the certifying agency is provided. Moving forward, you can see that this continues because mandatory experience is there. So for category A, under mandatory experience, ensure at least 1,000 cleans for main sub area from one provider, another 50 cleans from another provider. Ensure at least 100 cleans for 3, and so on and so forth. In the horizontal review, I've said ensure all columns under Exhibit 3A are filled completely, including UNSP SC codes. Ensure the LOAs are properly signed. So this goes on for the NAICS size standard form that you have to fill out, and then it goes into volume 2 past performance, the write-up, what it should cover, vertical review, what it should look for, and then in horizontal review, for example, I've said ensure that the overall write-up is no more than 10 pages. Don't use pictures and use the space for more content. So in terms of the format, don't try to use pictures in the past performance part. More important is to ensure that you're covering every requested information by the government. And then we go into volume 3, mission suitability. Again, I've put in some recommendations with regards to what to look for in vertical review and what to look for horizontal review. Final recommendations. So if you're late in the game, you're lucky. The due date has been extended, so act now and start immediately. Continuously monitor SAM and the NASA SEWP VI website for updates to the Q&As. About 1100 remain to be answered, so we have to read those carefully. Now, carefully study the 3300 existing responses and gauge your proposal accordingly. Ensure that you fully understand the do's and don'ts of the RFP, especially if you're going for multiple categories, or if you're both prime and part of a team, or if you have some sort of a JV in place or a CTA. In terms of compliance is of utmost importance in SEWP VI submission. In addition to the customary gate reviews, do not mix up compliance with gate reviews. They're two different beasts. Put a separate team to review specifically for compliance. There are too many moving parts in the proposal. Don't underestimate the compliance and review needs of volume 1 and 2. Volume 1 and 2 might have less writing involved, but there are a lot of compliance issues. For example, many people don't realize that you need a UNSPSC code for every line item in category A. That's just an example. Or ensuring that you answer all 11 areas in past performance write-ups. Doesn't matter which category, but ensuring that all those 11 areas are covered per the RFP. With regards to review, get your proposal reviewed by a third party, either within your organization, somebody who is familiar and can do a review, or a team, or a professional proposal company like us, like GDIC. You don't want to face a situation in that you possess all the requirements and deserve a pass on all volumes. And remember, they're not going to compare you with anyone. If you pass a volume, you pass that, you go to the next stage. You've passed 3 volumes and they check your responsibility, you're automatically awarded. You don't want to face a situation in which you actually deserved to pass everything, but you made a mistake, either in form and format or in content, and you get disqualification. Use our GDIC's free consultation service to ask any questions that you might have. So by all means, use that. So these were my final recommendations, and the services we provide I've listed here again. So free consultation, eligibility and qualification assessment. If you want us to do the full proposal for you, we do so with a dedicated proposal team. Or if you want us to do review services for you and you're doing it in-house, again, we're here to help you. And here is our contact info, my contact info, email and phone. It's preferable if you email me. You probably will not find me on phone. But my colleague, Maroon Freedy, if you want to set up a call, a free consultation time, or if you want information about our services, review services, or proposal development, please contact Maroon. His email and phone number is listed here. Okay, we have reached the Q&A session, and we are past the time, but I will answer a few questions to make sure. If we run out of time and I do not answer the questions that you have posed on the chat system, I will send you an email and respond by email. Okay, so let's start the question. So Marlene's question: can a large business be a subcontractor to a small business prime? Yes, Marlene, that's acceptable. So a large business can actually be a subcontractor in, say, category B or category C to a small business prime. That's acceptable. Jack says, can you explain again the difference between calculating the amounts for the reps and the PPs? Sure. So in reps, in the experience part, they're looking for the total amount of contract, the total contract value. And to calculate that, you add up the base year plus all option years. And that's the total amount that you use. So, for example, if it's a large business, $30 million. If small business, $5 million. For category A, $2.5 million. Sorry, category A doesn't have reps. So that's for reps. Now, if you're calculating for PPs, they don't look for the total amount. They want the annual value. And the annual value, you have two situations. The annual value, if the contract is completed, that's you take the total amount that was paid to you, divide by the total duration, the actual duration of the contract. So maybe the contract was extended 1 year, you use that extra year plus that. Or it was completed in a shorter time, you use that shorter time and divide. That's the annual. You don't pick one of the years with the highest annual or anything like that. The total value divided by total duration. That's for completed. For ongoing ones, you don't look at the end date. It's up to now. So up to now, meaning when I say now, meaning January 30th, 2025. So up to January 30th, 2025, how much you were paid divided by the duration from the start of the period, performance period, till January 30th. That's the duration. Divide, and that's the annual value. It must be above, for category A, $150,000. If small business, $2.5 million. Large business, and then you come to category B and C, which is 2.5 and 1 million or $500,000. So I hope I've answered your question, Jack. Let's go to Stephanie's question. Stephanie says, so you said that the past performances have to have the same NAICS that we put in our SF 1449. So for a small business, all of our 3 past performances must have this same NAICS. Well, they prefer that, so yes, but they've said also that if the past performances that you do not have the correct NAICS code, then you have to explain in your write-up why these past performances that you're using are relevant to that particular NAICS code. So you have to write, provide an explanation. Question from Charles. If you're going to, for both category B and C, you said everything must be completed for each. Do we have to get 2 sets of PPQs from the contracting officers? Good question, Charles. Actually, due to the shortage of time, I didn't cover this. No. So, because this was specifically asked from the government, and they've said that 1 PPQ is enough. So you ask your contracting officers to actually send the PPQs once, but you use those same PPQs for both category B or C or whatever. Question from Sean. So you said an MSA is acceptable as a past performance, but not as a rep. Correct, Sean. So a commercial master service agreement can be used as one contract for past performance, but you cannot use it for a rep. So for a rep, you cannot use a master service agreement, but you can use for past performance. Mary's question. Can't we use a single award BPA for one of our reps? No, you cannot. But as I mentioned in previous one to Sean's question, is similar. So a single award BPA is similar to a master service agreement. You can use it as a past performance, but you cannot use it as a rep. Jim, we are a MPJV. You said we do not need a Merkle, correct? Right. So you do not need a Merkle, but what you need to submit is your MPJV agreement with the submission. Question from Susan. You moved the review slides quickly, and there was something about references in volume 3. Can you explain? Yes, sorry. Sorry about that. I always run out of time in my webinars as I put too much text into it. So the point is that if you reference something in your write-up but don't actually provide the content, they're not going to look it up. So you can't say, quote, this is covered in page 3 of our management approach, and then assume that they're going to go to your page 3 of your management approach and read it. You have to say, as mentioned in page 3 of our management approach, we provide blah, 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 blah. So in effect, referencing has no effect. It's better that you write everything up again. So they're not going to go and look up something somewhere else, whether it's in another part of that same volume or in another volume. We have a lot of more questions and we have run out of time. Again, as usual, I apologize to everyone. I see that a lot of questions remain. I will respond to everyone by email. I thank everyone for participating in today's webinar, and I look forward to seeing you in our future webinars as well. Thank you and have a great day.